Hey everyone, and welcome back. So if you have any sketches, bring them into this file. If you have things like your sitemap that are going to dictate the content on the homepage, bring them into this file. We're going to work together right now to work on some of the different pages within our app. So let's start with our homepage. Now, I have a pretty good understanding of what I want to build already based off of all the stuff that we've done thus far. I know that our homepage needs to have things like recommendations ready, needs to have things like maybe things pointing you towards deals, to buying stuff, definitely categories to pull people in towards, and a really good search. So let's jump right in. And I'm going to show you how to build a quick wireframe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press F, and I'm going to just use the iPhone 13 Pro as my frame, and I'm going to rename this to home. Okay, so we all know how to use those wireframe components. And what I'm going to start it with is I'm going to actually start with the navigation. So I'm going to grab our little toolbar component here and place it right at the bottom. And here we go. So now that it's placed inside the frame, and you can see it right here, it's inside that frame, we can just resize it to fit the frame. And now we can specify the different labels we want to see. So I think there's going to be a couple of different options here. I think we're going to need around like maybe 4. So I'm just going to specify the amount of nav items there. And I'm going to jump right in. So definitely going to need a home. And we're going to need wish list, maybe. That's what I was thinking. Definitely don't need to follow me in terms of where I think the content should go and what I think the content should be. I would definitely urge you to do that yourself. We have cart. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select a new instance, a new icon there. So I'm going to use the wish list icon. I don't know what icon, maybe a heart. Yeah, that works. And oops, there we go. What else should we choose? So for profile, maybe would it be under something like user? Oh, there it is. Perfect. I think that could work. So I want them to be able to see like maybe their orders really easily. And this one's really easy. Instead of a home, we should probably use something like a cart. Perfect. So there we go. We have our versions ready. Now I can set this property to active. So definitely nice little nav that we've just created really easily. So that's going to be our nav for now. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go into my assets panel once again, and I'm going to start top down. So I'm going to maybe build from the very top here and go all the way down, and I'm going to get a search input. So I see all my input fields here. What do we have? So I'm just going to use the regular input field. And you may notice that, okay, this has a label, but now I can actually turn that label off because that variant has been created. And then I'm going to switch that value to search. I'm not worried too much about like the looks here. Like as long as there's enough contrast, you know, that's going to be totally enough for us. And so I have a little search icon already placed there. Okay, so making it really easy and apparent to search right at the top. So we have that ready. And I think it would be nice to have, you know, maybe some text here. I'm going to just press T for the text tool that says something like a welcoming thing. So maybe like, hi, Leslie, exclamation mark. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my styles. So you press this little icon here in text. So I'm going to go to my text styles and I'm going to select maybe like heading S. I like the other one better. And we can even go into our fills and then choose the type of color we want. So there we go. So I'm just going to do that. And then I'm going to make a copy of that and drag it down. And I think we should do something like, oh, we have some recommendations. Okay. And I'm going to select all that with Command A or Control A. And then we can specify the text. So I'm going to leave the body copy here at like medium or something like that. And then we can set that to 600, just creating a little bit of contrast between the two. So I'm going to actually group these. So I'm going to go right click and I'm going to frame that selection, turn it into an auto layout frame. So I'm going to move a little quickly now. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make this really easy on us. I'm going to set up some sort of foundation where there's just like auto layout. So once again, I'm going to frame this selection. So I'm using my shortcut, which is Option Command G, and I'm going to make this an auto layout. And so here we can, start making some nice changes where we can just like pop content in and out. We can make this the full width and the full height and specify, just like the padding around. So say we want like maybe 24 pixel padding on the edges, and then at the top, maybe there's like 56. It just comes down there. And all the content within, we can just select it all and set to fill. So now anytime we have like content here, it's always going to span like the entire width. So there we go. We have like an introduction. Now, I think the next thing to do is to probably have, let's see what other pieces of content we have here. I'm going to go into my content blocks and grab a card, and I'm going to drag that right into that auto layout frame. We can just move it down with our arrow keys. And here we can actually start specifying some of the things. Like I don't want any buttons, so we'll just turn those off. And I think that will be good. And maybe we'll have like a price here. So we can just change that to like say $25, and we can call this like the product name. And yeah, and now we can actually just shrink it as we see fit. And now we have a product card. I'm going to make a copy of that. And I'm actually going to group them into a auto layout frame. So I just press Shift A while selecting them both. And there we go. We've created some sort of like container here, which is essentially just like a vertical scroll, but it doesn't really have a title. I think the best way to do that is maybe just bring in a title bar. And here we can, remove the divider, set this to like maybe small, and set this to fill the container. Maybe not button 2. We can see how like we can just like run in here and, change all these types of buttons. So maybe this is like, okay. So we can set the properties, and I want this style to be like a ghost button. And I can say something like, see all. And the title is something like just for you. And then we can take these and press Shift A, and we are in an auto layout frame again. And now we can just specify that this is like maybe only 8 pixels apart. And we have like our own little content area here. So now that we have that, I think we're getting pretty close. I'm going to just right click on that frame to an empty area and drag it out some more. This can go right to the bottom. We can specify that we want this fixed to the bottom. And we can say this is right there to the bottom, the constraint. And what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to take this and copy it, and it's going to make a new copy. Now I want to make a deals section. And this is where I'm going to start, messing around a bit with the actual card. So I'm going to take these 2 cards, make kind of like a grid. So I'm going to, select them both, set them to fill. Okay, that looks a little messed up, but I don't think we need all this content. So I'm going to, now that I'm selecting both of them, I can remove things like the content. I can, keep the product name like that. That's totally fine. And I can keep that just the same. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select them both. Oops. Let's go in there, select them both, and let's bring them up in size. Now we can even come in here and, mess around a bit. Like this title is maybe a little bit too big, so we can make it smaller. So now we have the little grid of items. Oops. Let's bring this in a little bit. And we can select these together. I just made that copy, Shift A, and maybe 16 pixels apart or something. And these two are right now 32 pixels, but we can make them like 16 pixels apart. And we have a grid of items. So now our wireframes are starting to come to life a bit. I think the last thing that we do need is maybe just a categories page or something on here. Just a place where people can easily come to see, you know, what kind of categories I can jump into right away. So here we go. I have my categories title. I'll just keep that see all there. And I'm going to modify this card a bit. So I don't want an image. I don't even want an icon. I think all we need is a subheading. And I'm pretty sure we could just like, you know, make it centered. And I'm going to select that text. Jump in there again. Get right down to the text layer and center it. And there we go. And how many pixels should this be? So I'm going to make it like maybe like a horizontal scroll. So this can be like just hugging the content. This can be set to hug the content. Okay. So let's take a look at our layers. So we have a lot of layers here now. So there we go. We can remove this one. So I'm going to ungroup that. And we can actually spread it out. So it's something along the lines of this. Okay, so we have like these squares now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, you know, come up with some category names. So I have tech, I have fashion, and the last one maybe something like gaming. And we can jump right in here and we can like tighten it up a bit. And there you go. We basically just created our own homepage really quickly. So we have like a search, which I really wanted to bring in. Obviously, I'm going to come up with like different variations here. And that's what you should do too. You should come up with different variations of like your homepage and, you know, start choosing and testing which one is you think is the best in terms of like the content strategy and just like the hierarchy of information here. But I have like my just for you personalized products. I have deals and I have like a categories page. I also have a nice navigation at the bottom and easy way to search. So that's it for our homepage.